sports fan has an opinion. Well, these are ours. Welcome to Brock and Pep's Unsportsmanlike Convo.
Right.
And here are your hosts, Brock Fleming and Pep Cariotti.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is April 6th, 2021. I apologize. Last week, apparently, I said 2020. So it was one of those years that just kind of flew by. It is April 6th. It's springtime is in the air. The sun is shining. It's starting to warm up. My partner, P-Dog, across the border there on the Quebec side, you got to be excited because you're a big outdoors guy, big activity guy. How was your long weekend?
It was pretty good, actually. A little bit different again with Easter and not being able to gather as a family. Aside from that, it was good. I went to Tanger, not to shop. There's a Starbucks in the Tanger outlet, and I was in the neighborhood. And I said, just for fun, I'm going to go and drive by the Nike store. And I'm not here to poop on the Nike store. Okay, I shop there a lot. I know the manager, great guy, but there was a lineup. There must have been about 100 people out there. And I'm having a hard time understanding lockdown measures in terms of, so we can't sit on a patio where tables are socially distanced like 6 to 10 feet safely. Yet we can gather at a mall. I'll use Tanger as an example and line up 100 people back to back. One dude was smoking. It was just, so I understand the confusion that a lot of people are probably dealing with right now in terms of why things are closed and why things are open. And I don't quite get the Tanger. I don't think we all need a new outfit during a pandemic. But restaurants serving food, I think, is probably more necessary than buying a new pair of CrossFit jeans or CrossFit pants or whatever. Anyway, that was my experience on Saturday, which was day one of the lockdown. And
COVID lockdown has required me to buy new outfits. Okay. So
there's that. Yeah.
I need stretchier pants.
Yeah. But there's that, I guess. But the lockdowns don't make a lot of sense in terms of what they're locking down and what they're keeping open. But again,
I agree with you 100%. This time around, it's felt really unorganized and unprepared to a point. They talk about why we're doing it, the new variances that are affecting younger people. So they go into this shutdown mode, but schools are still open.
Yeah,
stores are still open. All this kind of stuff. But now restaurants are the only ones that are closed. Like, it seems like it's very, very detrimental to the restaurant industry itself. A lot of small businesses are kind of feeling the pain. And initially I was kind of along the lines of, look, I know this sucks as much. We got to try and get through this in terms of making sure our businesses and supporting local and as best we can, but ultimately it's for the greater good. Now it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me as to with the reasoning behind what's open and what's not. I just wanted to take a quick second. Welcome everybody who's watching through Facebook Live. For those who are watching, please accept the terms of StreamYard so that we can see your profile name when you guys have questions and comments. Shout out to the listeners on the Cap City Beats app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, check that out so you can stream us, the video and the audio, through the app and on the website, capcitybeats.ca. If you miss anything through one of these shows, by all means, go take a look at our podcast, we'll put these episodes on our podcast as well, which you can get anywhere you get your podcasts. And shout out to Big Boss Man Kwame for getting us the link nice and early today. And I do want a question to say, we got bumped off the first page of the Cap City Beats app. So I don't know if that was indicative of anything or if we just changed the size of the logos. I don't know, but Kwame, we were page 1. So what's going on?
We're the comics now.
Right?
We're this Ottawa Sun comics section.
Hey, you got to scroll? That's no good. You got to get off the scroll. So yeah, long weekend came and gone. No big Easter dinners, no big family get-togethers. We ordered pizza. I did get out golfing with K-Dog, our fact checker in the back. We went golfing on Monday. It was a beautiful day. I usually get red during this show anyway. I don't know if it's from the lights or from the pressure or from what it is. But today I'm starting it ahead of time because I got a good layer of sunburn. So I am just about ready for summer. That's how this guy tans. It goes
It's looking good tomorrow. It's looking good the rest of the week, pal. 20 degrees, looking like towards the end of the week. So,
hey, I hope to be out golfing again tomorrow. We're doing an Elmer this time instead of being out in Renfrew, so a lot closer and trying a different course. And anyway, my goal this year is to get out golfing more and to get respectable. That's all I want. I just want to be respectable, and I don't want to lose a dozen balls every time I go out to the course. So that's again, it's small goals, Pep. You need to have goals. You need to keep yourself entertained
every day.
From a mental standpoint,
yep,
is probably the hardest sport I've ever done because I can't just lose it and then go for straight aggression and fight your way through it or hit somebody to get over it. There's etiquette. You have to be mentally tough to say, you know what, that shot sucked. Let's focus before the next 17 shots suck.
Yep.
I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
That's the toughest thing about golf. I found my brief experience with golf. I had beginner's luck on my first course. It was a par 3 at Dunderosa, and I was hitting it right on the green. Nice drives off the tee, though, right? Using an iron off the tee, just a little bit more control. Then I went to the big leagues, and not so much.
Not so much. All right, let's talk about our sponsor. We're going to go to our sponsor.
All right. Oh, there's that lovely music. Hey, are you selling or buying? Call Tracy Iskander with Royal LePage at Groupe Philippe Lemay. They have the buyers and the right game plan to find you a new home. You'll get personalized service in all sectors of the Outaouais region. Tracy is fluently bilingual, and with a combined 40 years of real estate experience at Groupe Philippe Lemay, you can rest assured your home buying journey will be handled with first-class care and the best prices on the market. Call Tracy today at 613-324-3781 or email her at Tracy. Where's that email?
Tracy at
tracyiskander.com. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's what I'm here for. That's why we work in pairs.
Got it.
All right. Before we get into headlines, we have a guest with us. Well, we have a couple of guys who are going to come on and give their opinion. This is a gentleman who's been with us now for going on to 3 weeks. We're going to be talking again football and March Madness. Let's bring him on here. Sig Charles.
Nice.
Nice. Love
That's
that song.
awesome. I'll remember that one, Brock. Okay.
Oh, I love that song.
Good.
One anyway, but
That's good. Good evening, guys.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. Yourselves?
Cannot complain.
Awesome. That's great.
Let's get right into it. Pep, you got headlines for us.
Cue the headlines.
Headlines with Brock and Pep.
Sig.
It's
Yes.
like the Superman song.
I like it.
Headlines. Yeah, let's fire them off. Well, we didn't. There was one thing we wanted to bring up in the intro that we we'll bring it up now. Is the Toronto Blue Jays opened up their 3-game set with the Texas Rangers, and Game 2 is tonight at 8:05. I'm looking forward to that. Interesting how they set up the stadium. The capacity for the new Texas stadium, which is the old one was only 26 years old. So, I mean, it felt like they just built a new one for the sake of building a new one. Apparently it's the humidity, and now this has a dome now, or it's a retractable roof. So I guess that's what it is. But they just went ahead and built a new one.
You got to go big in Texas. 26 years old in Texas? Out.
I guess.
That's new.
I thought it was relatively new. Anyways, but this sucker fits 40,000. And then for the first game, they opened it. It was the home opener. And they opened it up to come one, come all. 40,000 were available. So every seat was available. They ended up getting 38,000 and change. So that was just for the home opener. Tonight, they're back down to 75% capacity. So, I mean, at the most, they can have, 75% of 40. So 30,000, let's say. they will probably won't get 30,000, but at least that the potential is there. How do you guys feel about that? And I don't know enough about the state of Texas personally to know their vaccination rollout plan or what's going on, but do you just feel like they've just gone ahead and said we're gonna try to be the standard here, and other teams can follow suit?
Hashtag COVID doesn't exist in Texas.
That's what it's looking like. That's what they're acting like.
Why did they do it at 100% game 1 and then drop it back to 75 in game 2 or whatever it is? Like, that didn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be 100 on Monday, then be 100 on Tuesday, because it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It was like a bonus for the first game. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they had rapid testing available at the doors for game 1. I doubt they'll just continue with that because it's pretty expensive to do. But it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, Sig, I don't know if you're a big baseball guy or not, but you're probably a Jays fan, right? At least.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%.
How upset would you be knowing that how well the Jays have started this season, and for the most part, outside of George Springer, they're pretty healthy? How would you feel if, because of this, well, let's call it what it is, a potential super spreader event?
100%.
How would you feel if some of their players got sick and missed a prolonged amount of time, or God forbid got really sick? Because some of these variants can really wreak havoc on your system. How would you guys feel? Sig, Brock, you can chime in.
Mm-hmm.
As a fan, would you be upset knowing that this could be the Jays' year? They've invested a ton of money. They spent a lot of money on upgrading their roster, and they were at risk.
Yeah, I'd be upset because Texas is just thinking about their people and whatever they're doing, whatever their plans and their rollout is, whatever they're doing to be safe. But they got to think there's other teams that are coming into their stadium, So
for sure,
you'd think there'd be some type of consultation, like how do you guys feel about said number of fans? But I mean, it honestly seems like they're being a little bit careless, like they're showing that okay, we're strong and we're together and this is how we feel, but we also don't care about what anybody else thinks. That's unfortunately that's the message that I'm getting from that when I read that, and I don't think that's very professional about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'd be upset as a fan 100% because I mean, again, you don't want anybody getting sick or hurt on any side. But when, just like you said, when the Jays are in a good spot, this year with regards to players and stuff, like
invested a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
a lot of money.
Which team had was it?
And even if they didn't, sorry, Brock, even if they didn't, still, it's still, health wise, you just don't want that to happen. Sorry, Brock, go ahead.
That's all right. Don't let it happen again. Which stadium had the plexiglass behind? Was that the Yankees or was that Texas?
Which stadium had the what? Sorry,
it looked like one of them had plexiglass between the fans and like the dugout and stuff. So where it used to be just like a fence, like not a fence, but like the net.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple of spots, it looked like it had plexiglass. So like if a player went close there to make a play, he wasn't just a mesh between him and the stands and the fans.
That was the Yankees stadium.
Was it? It was like a big sneeze guard around kind of thing, but they didn't have full capacity anyway. Anyway, stuff like that, you see they're taking some precautions. I don't know if Texas did that or not. I didn't notice it in that game if it's the Yankee one.
No.
But from a baseball standpoint, like, yeah, okay, it would suck if the Jays got sick or whatever. Ultimately, if the Jays don't get sick, but Texas does, the Yankees do, the Red Sox do, like the season is all for naught. So you look at the hockey situation. The Canucks right now are going through some wicked variants that have gone through that team and have spread over into some of their family members even. There's talk that they're not going to be playing until at least May. And, how does that affect the Northern Division? How does that affect the NHL period? Because there's some American teams that have had some issues as well. So from just a sports fan perspective, you kind of want to see the league do what they need to do to ensure that they get a season. They say, if that's what you're going to be doing, then do it properly. And if it's 40,000 Texas fans aren't allowed to be there because of it, but then you get a full season of baseball and protect the players and their well-being, that's worth more than whatever the ticket sales you had with the Rangers.
Well, that's it. And I think what's most frustrating for everybody And sports have done a remarkable job, guys. Like I applaud every sport for what they've done in terms of taking precaution and protecting their players and the fans.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. But I will say this: where the finish line is there for not only sports but for everybody. Like it's like you're so close, yet it's like a kid going to the fair. And like we're 5 minutes away, and he throws a tantrum because he wants to be there now. Like we're 5 minutes away. Relax. Okay, we're
we all want
almost
the fans. We all
almost
want the
there.
fans. We all want normal.
like
normalcy.
Like Steven Matz,
But-
the pitcher for the Jays the other night. What they asked him about how it felt to play in front of fans, and he wasn't shy. He's like, you know what, it was pretty awesome.
Mhm.
He's like, this was kind of what we're all like clamoring for. It was good energy and it's exciting, and but on the flip side, like we still want to be careful. But like we all want the fans back from a viewer perspective, from sports talk perspective. We all want the fans. It's a much better experience to watch on TV and to be there live with fans there for sure. So
It's going to be really crappy is when COVID starts to go a little bit into like just enough, not anything more than what it is right now, manageable. But the Jays are far and away the best team in Major League Baseball, and then all the presidents vote to say, "Yeah, let's just end the season now."
Don't
Just
you
like
dare!
The '94 Expos.
Oh,
I was just gonna say it.
don't even.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the Expos.
We got a first comment, just so you know, and for those who can't see who this is, we know this is Big Boss Man Kwame, and he said that he'll have a look into why we're no longer on page 1 of the app. He cannot have his starters riding the bench. Right on.
I'm still on my 10-day contract. I'm not a starter.
True.
No, we've signed you to another 10-day. You're good.
Okay.
Hey, Eric Stahl, former Minnesota Wild, former Buffalo Sabre, former Carolina Hurricane, Stanley Cup winning team, by the way. Played his first game last night with the Montreal Canadiens, and he looked a step slow, but I mean that was because he hadn't played in a while. And also he's 36, but he's going to boost that lineup. They filled up their lineup with guys who would have been all-stars in the early 2000s. Corey Perry's on that team, and Eric Stahl, and Shea Weber and Carey Price. I mean, this is Team Canada All-Star Team 2010. But I mean, we see the value of these guys come playoff time, and I think it was a great pickup for them. He scored the game-winning goal yesterday in overtime. The Canadiens fought back to tie it at 2 after being down 2-0, and he came down the wing and zip one past Mike Smith, another veteran Canadian goalie. So happy for Eric Stahl. What do you guys think of that acquisition for the Canadiens?
I don't think anything about the Canadians. No, but the Canadians are kind of taking a page out of Belichick's type playbook, where he's like,
"Oh yeah,
washed up guys that may not have a good fit anywhere, and say, you know what, we're going to give you a new lease on life. Come on in here, and move the sense." And that's what they're doing. So, it's
okay.
That's
worked for Corey Perry.
Corey played very well the last couple of games that I watched versus Montreal and stuff like that. But a guy like that brings leadership. Again, Corey Perry, Eric Stahl, like these are two guys. I can't remember the last when did I go to the All-Star game? It might have been
2012 or 14.
I can't remember if I had kids yet.
2013, 2012, somewhere in Ottawa.
Atlanta no longer has a team. So whenever that happens to be, and I went down there and I got all these pictures with these guys, and these guys were the all-stars then. And I'm going back, a good decade, and these guys are still, effective in the highest level you could possibly be at. And, I think Montreal probably gets a steal with some of these guys. They're not paying through the nose for them either. So it's a great steal. You take chances on these guys.
Eric Stahl had 45 goals with the Minnesota Wild 2 years ago. So he clearly has something left in the tank. And, playing in Buffalo this first half of the season would have been a break. Love the Stahl brothers. Can you read that, Brock? I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah. Great pickup. Canadians, value in the locker room. And it's Michael Ferrer with his blue.
Attaboy, Mikey.
Blue Lightning. What's the Blue Thunder? Blue Lightning?
Blue Steel.
Landers,
Steel.
Blue Steel.
Blue Steel. Ugh, yeah.
Ice cold.
Look there, crazy.
Ice cold. Hey, moving on. I was going to talk a little bit about how 4-on-4 and 3-on-3 is awesome to watch in hockey, but we all know that.
So fast.
Moving on.
So fast. Yeah, that's great.
Hey, Sig, how about the Raptors? Okay. They're 20-30. They're a game out of the 10th spot, and we know there's a 10th. There's a 8, 9, 10. No, sorry, 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9, 10 play-in.
Play-in game. So they're a game out of the play-in. Well, you know, once you're in the play-in, anything can happen, right? Those 4 teams are probably not very far off from each other. Gary Trent Jr., their acquisition from the Portland Trailblazers when they dealt away Norman Powell, has played really well for the Raptors.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
he had a game where he scored 31. He's shooting over 40% from 3. He scored 16 last night, including a game-winning 3-point shot at the buzzer. Meanwhile, in Portland, Powell's averaging less than 14 a game after scoring 30, 40, 30 with the Raptors. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to get 30 or 40 when you got Carmelo and you got CJ McCollum and Lillard. But this trade, let's keep in mind, too, Gary Trent Jr. is 3 years younger than Powell. He's got a little bit bigger frame. I'm kind of warming up to this trade.
I know. I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you because when we first discussed it, it was just just in the group. You were. I mean, I
was angry.
Powell. I know. I was angry too. You know, shed a tear for a second, but I wasn't upset because I've watched a lot of Portland games. You know what I mean? And I mean, he's a good player. I think he passes the eye test. You know, like he can score, he can shoot.
Yeah.
You know, like he looks like he's positive out there. He's focused, you know, on being a good teammate as well. And he played with some pretty good stars in Portland already, you know. And knowing what, you know, what the trade was about and what the Raptors were looking for, and knowing what Portland was doing as well, because Portland still had to agree to that trade.
Yeah.
You know, so they're basically saying like, hey, sorry, you know, you're going, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I get it. You know, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my part for the Raptors. And I think he fits in really well. He played great. That buzzer beater, I mean, I must have watched it about 10 times, you know, 16 in the game, you know, it cooled off a bit. But, you know, he's looking to prove everybody that, you know, this is the reason why he's on the team. I didn't think Powell was doing too bad either because of his situation. He might still be filling that spot on that team. Is exactly what they want. Maybe, you know, better shooting percentage, because like, you know, when I say he passes the eye test for Gary Trent, I just mean like he's an aggressive player. He makes people, you know, defend him. He passes the ball when he needs to. When he's on, he's on. When he's off, you know, he's one of those shooters that can sometimes try to shoot himself back into a game, which can sometimes hurt, you know, the team's overall outcome. Do I know if he's going to do that with the Raptors? You know, I'm not saying that, but just from the games I've seen, and I think Powell, you know, has fit in well with Portland with what he's doing. So we'll see. I think we win for now. For me, yeah.
Players, I think the situation is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, Trent's a guy who now, you know, again, is young, is still trying to make his mark on the league, and has an opportunity on a team that is looking for their next star.
Yeah.
It's kind of what the Raptors are doing, and he's trying to take that bull by the horns and say, here's what I can do. Mm-hmm. Portland has a need for a guy who understands his role and does it very well, and that's what Powell does. They have stars already. He is a very, very good support player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he understands his role as a veteran. He's not going in there to try and overshadow Lillard or anybody. He's going in there to do his job, to be effective and efficient when he's called upon, but don't rattle anything else. So I think from both standpoints, I think both teams kind of got what they need. Mm-hmm. And, you know, who knows? Time will tell from a Raptor standpoint if he pays off the way they expect him to or hope they will. But I think Portland got a gem in Powell as well for exactly the dynamic they have right there.
Yep. And I'll tell you, there's some talk of Marc Gasol being bought out in LA. He's unhappy with the fact that they brought in Drummond and his minutes are going to be cut severely. And Anthony Davis will be back soon. They have Montrezl Harrell. You know, there's some minutes to be lost, unfortunately, for Marc Gasol. If he's bought out, should the Raptors maybe have a look? I know I think this year they're sort of giving up, but you know, maybe for next year, maybe a stopgap until they can maybe draft a guy or go out and get somebody else. What do you think?
Here's my feeling on the Toronto Raptors and what they are and what the rest of the season is going to look like. Westbrook got a rebound, didn't grab it cleanly, smashed it off of Bynum's face in the middle of a game, and Bynum didn't do anything.
Baines?
Baines.
Yeah.
Big Baines took the ball right up the forehead and gave him what are you doing? And Westbrook was laughing. And I was like, the fact that you haven't jammed him or tried to throw or anything just shows, hey, that for me, that was so indicative of what I think the rest of the season is going to be for the Raptors. It was like, yeah, you're going to smash your balls off. Okay, moving on. Anyway, it's not going to be great. You take a ball to the forehead and you don't fight back or respond in any sort of way. I felt like it was really lacking some hunger or something there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't feel like they have any toughness down low. It's
no. I think
it hurts.
It really, and I love Chris Boucher. I hope this doesn't affect his development, but really, they have zero toughness. They were out rebounded. I mean, the offensive rebounding at one point last night was 12-0.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive rebounding, they're getting out rebounded everywhere. So it's a big deal. Baines. Oh man, I was so off the mark with Baines when I was happy when they signed him, and now I just don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Masters week, Brock.
As I'm deleting it off the
Oh, you're taking it off? Okay.
Hey, it's Masters week. So anybody I don't know how many golf fans we have here, but if you are a fan of watching golf, Masters week is the best week there. The fact that Tiger Woods is not playing in it 150% takes away a lot of the excitement around that match. But it is Masters week. So starting Thursday through, you got it's going to have a pretty good ending probably on Sunday for the green jacket. Anyway.
I'll take that a step further, Brock.
Sure.
You said Tiger's not playing, so it'll take away from I went from probably watching some to now I probably won't watch a second.
That Tiger Woods was just in a car accident and probably has surgery to get two robotic legs. Like, you can't be surprised he's not golfing in the Masters.
Oh, no, I'm not surprised. I'm just saying I won't watch.
Okay.
I won't. If he's not in it, I'm not watching golf.
I won't watch probably till Sunday.
Likewise.
No, I don't even think I'll. I'm not a huge golf guy. That being said, I do like when there's the fourth round and it's tight and there's they're going back to back. The cameras are going back to back to the players, and
for sure,
I'm good with that. But to watch the second round, I mean, what are you going to do? I don't have an appreciation for golf like you do, Brock. And like a nice shot, like a straight angle shot or whatever, or a hook or a slice that'll get you onto the fairway. I don't have as much of an appreciation for those things as maybe you do. So, do you golf?
I haven't. My brother wants to get me out.
Beach?
I've golfed. Yeah, he wants to get me out. I've golfed one time. I hit the driving range once in a while, but yeah. What are you laughing at there, bro?
What's he laughing at?
Trying to go in and was waiting. I was looking at his expression more than anything else.
Well, I guess, but Brock, that's it for headlines.
Yeah, that is it for headlines. Let's move on.
I think it's time to.
We have no video intro for this. This is the last of this season. March Madness tourney has come and gone. We have a new champion.
Yes.
Baylor Bears are basketball champs.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of crazy to hear that, really. And they just defeated the previously undefeated Gonzaga Bulldogs fairly handedly in that game. Enough where it wasn't even close. Really entertaining.
No, wasn't even close.
Before we talk about that game itself, guys, I can't do Dick Vitale anymore. I can't. I'm done with Dick Vitale. Legend commentator for years. I mean, you talk about 80s and 90s. We used to imitate him in high school, and we all wanted to be play college so he could do our games. It's he's hard to listen to now. He's wheezing.
It's not the same.
No, Brock,
it's not the same.
You a Dickie V fan?
When you first said it, I thought you were like, I can't do his voice anymore. I'm like, no, of course you can't. Nobody can do that.
Matt Pudvey does a pretty good. Matt Pudvey does a pretty good Dickie V actually. But my first impression of the game yesterday, especially the first 5 minutes, was Baylor was hitting everything. Yeah. So when you were getting defensive stops coming down and hitting threes, and then you're up by 20 all of a sudden, it forced Gonzaga to play catch up. It was just exactly the way they wanted it to go. But just my one impression was that how much stronger physically the Baylor kids looked. Like they looked like they were lifting weights with the football team, and that's the first impression I got with Baylor.
Yeah, Gonzaga's biggest guy is that Timmy guy, and even he looks like that
slender
Scrooge. What's the guy from Scooby Doo there?
I thought he looked more like Will Ferrell in the Flint Tropics. There was that
when
movie?
He does the dunk and he does the
Shaggy.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's got pretty good feet and pretty good hands. Like he's a pretty decent player, all things considered. Take the looks.
Great player.
Both Pittsburgh
Baylor was
and Timmy. They played well all tournament. Even the Final Four, like they were beating up on teams, but in that game, Baylor, like what they out rebound them. It was 12-1 for Baylor offensive rebounds, and then the final score was 34-17 total rebounds in that game. You know what I mean? And then it was like 14-7 turnovers. Baylor, like Shaggy. it was bad. Yeah, Shaggy.
Yeah.
It was bad early, and it was defense too. Like, so on one side you had Baylor. It looked like basically their thing was, okay, you guys can go one-on-one, and if you have an open shot, take it, which they 100% did. And then going to the other side, going to Gonzaga, they had nothing on offense. They were passing the ball. Every pass was contested. Like every single pass, they're passing the ball to the wing. It was contested. The ball wasn't even basically making it to the hoop at all. They were taking forced shots. Once they finally got their rhythm, by that time it was too late, because even Suggs, the freshman, he's gonna go to the NBA. He's probably gonna be a
good NBA player too.
Yeah, but he had nothing early on, and I think he might have finished what was it, 22 points, but it was all late. It was all late in the game, and it was after the game was already finished. It was over. It was over the first 5 minutes.
A Yei kid.
Which one?
Yeah, a Yei.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really like his game and the way he plays, and he impressed me during the UCLA game. Is the one that I saw. That I was like, okay, but where do you think Gonzaga went wrong? Mike, never take balls to the face without doing something about it. That's a given.
Outstanding.
That Stillman guys have. Anyway,
what were you saying, bro?
Where did Gonzaga go? Like, where did they lose it? Because when I look at their tournament, they were so dominant up until that UCLA game. And to me, it was a miracle ending. It was a very exciting game, but I thought UCLA overplayed their ability and Gonzaga played under. And to me, I felt like UCLA deserved that game more. I just had that feeling that they deserved it. They answered everything. All their players stepped up, and I found Gonzaga didn't. And I don't know if it was from that rolls into the final, but somewhere they sort of lost. They lost something.
Well, in my opinion, in terms of Gonzaga, when you're playing undefeated all year, everyone's coming for you, right? So you're undefeated, you're supposed to win. So the pressure gets more and more and more. And that UCLA game, that was their final. Like, they were emotionally drained after that game. Like, the emotion of it, and the Suggs going up on the table and doing the old, I was acting like Dwayne Wade or whatever, like you said. And I mean, I would be emotional too. I'd have been doing cartwheels. I'm a kid. But I think they emotionally drained themselves that game, and it showed. They came out flat. And you have to give credit to Baylor. Baylor's they're men. I mean, they rolled out 3 guys against Timmy who were faster, bigger, and stronger than he was. Maybe not as skilled, but I mean, they beat him up. And Gonzaga just looked like there was no gas in the tank. They were short on their shots. And when you're short on your shot, what does that tell you, Sig?
Yeah, you're not gonna hit that. You're gonna hit short shots.
No legs. Yeah, no legs. You're tired. So that quick indicator when it was 35-12 or 17 or whatever, it just showed me that Baylor's fresh. They're bigger. They're stronger. And I mean, it was going to take a miracle for Gonzaga to come back, and they didn't.
Yeah, actually, I was watching something with my wife, and I was like, it's Monday night. I forgot because it's a long weekend. I said, the final's on. So I quickly went to the score to take a look, and they were already down double digits, I think. And I said, well, I'll tune in the second half, see if they get it close. And then I watched a good chunk of it to see if they would, and Gonzaga did make a bit of a run. So I thought, you never know. And then Baylor just took off.
I think,
again, it's a new winner. It's a new winner. I think correct me if I'm wrong, the women's, has Stanford ever won before?
Stanford Cardinal. No, that's
Cardinals, yeah.
beating
Their first
UConn.
one.
A new men's and a new women's first ever championship teams, Arizona, Stanford, and that was a pretty good game for anybody who watched those highlights.
Fantastic game.
At the end of it, it came down to a last shot by Arizona, and she just missed. And she's a superstar. She hit about 4 of those game winners on before that, like in previous rounds. One of them to beat, I think it was South Carolina, maybe, who was probably arguably the favorite for the whole tournament. One of them, anyway. Anyway. Ultimately, what are your overall thoughts of the tournaments? I don't know how much of the women's you watch, but this 2021 COVID affected March Madness men's and women's brackets. What do you think? What's your grade on this?
You want me to go first, Pep?
Yeah, man.
I was excited that we had those tournaments. You know, I had my doubts that sports were going to continue. While still knocking on wood, I was hoping, and also it was entertaining. It was still good. You know what I mean? So, I'm just happy that we were able to still have it, to still experience it. I know the fans were out of it, and that is still a big part, because when I tried watching, games earlier in the season, it was still kind of hard for me to kind of focus. I'd still watch my North Carolina and Duke rivalry. Because that for me is still gets me going. But other than that, it's just I wasn't feeling it as much, so I was wondering how it was going to go into the tournament. But it still had its excitement. You know what I mean? The camera guys did a good job of focusing on the court and the sounds and the coaches and the players and what was going on. So they still made it a good experience for us fans being able to tune in. And for them being safe, they were able to do it that way. So, I was happy. I was happy with the product, the overall product.
Yep.
And I had some, even though UNC Duke, your rivalry, you watch it, you said it still gets you, but you must have lost something, because the fans in rivalry things are
the greatest
entertainment in itself. There's such a part of the game that without them, again, I didn't watch these, fanless matchups. But I can only imagine it had to have an effect on the atmosphere, obviously, and you're watching, even though they still played it and you still get into it, that's got to have an effect on it.
Yeah, well, 100%. It's still on my Duke, North Carolina is still on my bucket list. My brother and I were still that's one of ours that we have to cross off.
Is he a UNC fan as well, or is he a Duke?
He's a UNC fan as well. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, might sound crazy, but we were considering watching it at Cameron Stadium at Duke just because of that ridiculous atmosphere. We want to go to North Carolina and the Dean Dome and that, but the Duke is just nuts. And as much as I hate them, I'd still want to go into that stadium and just to experience that. But again, it's very different right now.
When it comes to the tournament, there's the crazed fans aren't as.
It's different.
It's different because they're neutral sites.
Yeah.
And you've got regular fans who just bought tickets to the game because it's in their region. So you got that. You have to take that into account as well. So I thought, all in all, there was enough fans to make it interesting. They would turn to the family members going crazy in the stands and stuff. It was enough.
Yeah.
It didn't really affect me. I thought I loved the as many upsets as there were. It was just fantastic. For me personally, Georgetown making the tournament after going they were 9-12 going into the Big East tournament, dead last in the Big East, and then they just went on a miraculous run in Patrick Ewing's Mecca, and it was exciting for me to watch. Them losing in the first round, I will admit, kind of deflated my basketball a little bit, but it was great watching all the upsets. I thought overall the tournament was an A+.
Yep.
Everybody was safe. The basketball was really good, and the women's side as well. So I'll give it all in all a grade A for excitement and upsets, which is what we all love to see. And the best team won. Baylor's good. Baylor was good all year. This wasn't just a team that came out of nowhere. They kicked ass all year. So good on them.
Yeah, I got to say I enjoyed it myself. The fact that Colgate had made it this year, Florida having at least.
Hey, Colgate was great.
But if it's not gonna be your team and it's gonna be kind of this weird one, you want to see somebody who's never won it before. So it was nice to see those guys. Nice to be a final where it wasn't the typical teams that you would normally see there. So again, a weird year, no fans, but ultimately it provided a good amount of entertainment. Like you said, great upsets. I think, like we talked about, due to maybe some, bad rankings or not enough of a background to actually properly rank teams. But because of that, again,
I thought they got it right.
Did we see who was favored in the final? I didn't look it up.
The Zags.
The Zags were favored.
Yep.
Okay, so there,
Yep.
another upset. Right
yeah,
there.
it had to be.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some NFL talk. Well, that was the quickest NFL.
Hey guys, I wanted to ask you one thing.
For sure, there was a double hit, and I was literally mid cough. I cough. I have a nervous cough usually, so between breaks when I do it, I'm literally, and then it stops, and I had to swallow it. Anyway, go ahead.
It reminded me of one of my Sega Genesis games when I'd go and put it in, and it would just freeze in the middle of the intro. That was I had to blow on it. What was that? What was that movie with Will Ferrell when he was a basketball player? Semi-Pro. What was the song? Remember, he you know what I'm talking about. We need a fact checker.
Yeah,
Rock, you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen it?
I've seen it. I can't think.
Love you, sexy. Love me, sexy. Yeah. Thank you, Mike, our executive producer, came up with the answer. It's "Love Me, Sexy." What a
that's amazing. I haven't seen that in a while.
What a great movie, man! What a great movie.
That or listen to it. Okay, look, NFL. Let's get right into it.
Do it.
Huge trade. I think I would argue it was a pretty big trade. The New York Jets trade Sam Darnold, their first round pick from 3 years ago, the Carolina Panthers, in exchange for a 6th round pick in 2021, a 2nd round pick in 2022, and a 4th round pick in 22. Who won this trade?
Oh, Sig.
Oh wow, who won? We'll see. I mean, what Darnold are they getting? Are they getting the Darnold from New York? Is he going to have a better protection? Better weapons to play with McCaffrey? I would think so. I think that I know I always answer these with like I never give you like the straight answer here, right? You're like,
no, it's good.
Why do you have to do that? But seriously though, that one is gonna it's hard to tell at this time. And then who are they gonna pick with those picks? I mean, we'll have to wait for that 2022 one. I mean, it's a 4th round and a 2nd round, the 226th pick in the 6th round or something. I mean,
the picks coming back are not stellar picks.
Yeah.
Well,
do you think the Jets gave up too fast on Darnold?
Sig, I've
been skeptical. I've been very skeptical on this guy. I'm like, what did they see? Like, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Pep. But
no, the Jets are going to draft a quarterback. They're going to draft Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, by all accounts, is a professional, ready-made quarterback by the looks of things.
Yeah.
The way he can manipulate defenses with his eyes. I've seen some of his highlights. He looks good. If they're going to draft him, why keep Darnold? He's going to be unhappy with the guy right behind him. You got a good haul for Darnold.
Right away, he'd be upset. Right away.
I think even if Darnold succeeds in Carolina, which he could very well succeed because he's friends with the coach and they've got a good relationship and there's some weapons there, but best running back in the NFL, arguably. Even if he does well, I think the Jets win this trade because they received assets for a guy they're probably not going to use anyway. So you got 3 picks. The second round pick next year, it's going to be a high 2nd round because I don't think the Panthers are going to be very good. So, I mean, I don't know. I like this for the Jets. I can't believe I'm saying that.
I'm going to agree with our resident listener, Mike Ferreira. I think Panthers win that trade.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
They gave up. I think Darnold, again, we're going to be talking about our top 5 quarterback busts of all time later on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a stipulation that I used in that is the team that these guys got drafted by. Oftentimes, quarterbacks that have this high expectations are drafted by the worst football teams in the league. And it's very hard. Football is the ultimate team sport. And you cannot be good if you don't have a good offensive line, if you don't have a running game, if you don't have a defense that can get you on the field more often. There's just multiple things that come into play. And I think that Sam Darnold is not as bad as he has, or people believe, because of the success and lack of success they've had in New York. So I think that the Panthers got a pretty good option from a quarterback standpoint. Still young, still has, in my opinion, a lot of upside if he's given the right tutoring and the right situation. And they gave up nothing for him, like the 6th, the 2nd, and the 4th, like maybe the 2nd round pick. But what would he do? If you get a guy who was a first overall, I think even Sam Darnold, and you say, okay, can he live up to this? Now, the thing is probably one of the bigger losers is Teddy Bridgewater. What happens to him now? So that was kind of his thing. He wasn't really seeing on the same page as the coaching staff in Carolina, so he's likely on the move. Where does he go? Does he go back to New Orleans? A team that could use something. I feel the Jets probably should have traded for him and said, you know what? We're going to get a guy who has a good mind for the game. Bridgewater has a great mind for the game. And learn, and bring in a guy like Zach Wilson and say, you know what, you're going to learn behind Teddy for a little bit and likely take over, but let's get him back. So for me, I would have liked to have seen maybe that in return from a Jets perspective, because right now, Bridgewater is just going to be looking to go somewhere else, and they're going to trade him or move him somewhere, but he's not going to stay in Carolina, I don't think. So for me, Bridgewater is the biggest loser in this trade, but I think that the Panthers ultimately win.
This is the 6th first-round pick that the Jets have traded away. You guys know that? 6 times they have picked someone in the first round, someone high, and eventually traded that player away. That's ridiculous. It happens.
Check that with the Detroit Lions and stuff like that. They don't trade their picks away. They just let them die.
Hey, Sam Darnold, his second game of his career, he blew out the Lions in Detroit, and everyone anointed him the next Joe Namath, and then the pressure built. And look, he had nobody to throw to. Robbie Anderson, I think, was the best receiver he's ever had while he's been there. The running game has been Frank Gore and a bunch of
Crowder was one of his.
He's getting
Crowder.
Hit. He's getting hit. He's getting hurt.
Yeah, I mean, look, he could very well succeed in Carolina, and he probably will. The NFC's got like Goff and Stafford. Sorry, I don't know why where is Sam Bradford anyway? Whatever happened to that guy? He was sort of. Is he? Yeah.
Is he a backup? I thought
he's out of the league.
I'll have to check that out.
Now you throw in Darnold. There's some young talent now in the NFC, and I think Breeze retiring opens up the window for that division for him to be successful in that division with Breeze no longer there. So I like it for both teams. I mean, I really do. And Teddy Bridgewater, I like Teddy, and I don't think he spent a year in New York. I don't think he was going to come back there. So I can see, I could see him backing up and like maybe go back to Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, I think this might be the year that they like, Kurt, if you don't do it for us this year, we're going to have to think about things. So there's a good place for him there.
I agree. Yeah. That sounds good.
The Panthers were the leading candidate and the front runner to make a real good push to get Deshaun Watson. So obviously they've moved on from that. Rightfully so. The guy's got 22 victims that have come forward. Today, one of the alleged victims, Ashley Solis, spoke to the press along with her lawyer and stuff. Things are not going to be good for him anytime soon. I know I said that he was released multiple weeks ago. Still very well happen over the next little while.
Foreshadowing.
We take a commercial.
It's not looking good. But what I was going to say is that with the 4th overall pick in the draft, it's the Atlanta Falcons.
They have the 4th.
And should they draft a quarterback, or do they continue to build around Matt Ryan? What do you think they should do? Is it time to move on? Is it time to get some new? Because ultimately, if the Jets take Zach Wilson, Justin Fields will most likely be available at 4 You know, Georgia Bulldog, Atlanta, Georgia. You're kind of in that same, you know, homegrown kid that brings, you know, an extremely high ceiling if he's got the right coach and the right system. Do you say it's time to move on?
So if you bring him in, does he move on? Does Ryan have to move on, or does he groom him because is he ready? You know what I mean?
And that's a good point too. And
you know?
that's another option. If you think that they should draft a quarterback and have Ryan develop him almost, or shadow him, kind of the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre sort of thing. But is that fair to Matt Ryan, where you're like, I got the 4th overall and I can get a guy like Kyle Pitt?
Yeah, or, it's a big deal, right? It's a big shot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Go ahead, Pip.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they should have moved on from Matt Ryan a couple of years ago. I think after they lost
some bad seasons. Yeah.
After they lost Super Bowl, I mean, they had 2 down seasons, and you know, they have to make some decisions as to whether they want to continue on with a guy who's no longer as mobile. He never really was that mobile, but he could move around a little bit in his younger years. Now he can't. Now the pocket breaks, and he's you know, it's either sack or swim. And I don't know. I always like Matty Ice.
I feel like they're almost wasting Julio Jones is like, you know, his last, like, you know, few good years. I mean, there was one season where he didn't have a pass or didn't have a touchdown catch, or even a catch in the red zone. I'm like, how do you have one of the best receivers and that happens, right?
So some of these teams haven't figured it out yet, and the NFL is 60 years old. They haven't figured out that it doesn't. You could have Jerry Rice, Julio Jones, you know, Tony Gonzalez, and Joe Montana. If you don't have anyone to block for him, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you have. And the year they made the Super Bowl, they had 3 veteran offensive linemen and 2 good tackles, and those guys are gone. So you're seeing what happens when nobody can block. A great offensive line is your best weapon. I see, Mike. Great minds think alike, Mike Ferreira. But
Greg had a point there about his contract. He has a massive contract.
Matt Ryan's contract being fairly large, so it's going to be tough to find somebody else to take that over or whatever. So,
I think you keep Matty Ice. You keep Matty Ice, and you give it what you see out his contract, and you're invested. That's the whole offense is based around him, so you're invested.
Couple mock drafts have them taking Kyle Pitts. So they have Lawrence going first, Wilson going to the Jets, the Niners taking Trey Lance, which sounds like that's their guy right now, and then the Falcons taking Kyle Pitts. You put a Kyle Pitts now, and they've had some success with pretty decent tight ends in Atlanta with their system. None of them have been to the caliber of a Kyle Pitts. So you throw him into the mix there, and I tell you, Julio is going to start loving life because he's going to get a lot more single coverage, and nobody's covering Julio, even at this advanced age for a football player. He is.
Yeah, the other kid's good too. Ridley or whatever his name is. He's also excellent.
Ridley's there.
You know, they've got weapons.
Yep, they definitely do.
They've had the weapons, right? Like,
for sure.
Well, wow, yeah.
It's about their defense and how their defense holds up and stuff too. But the other thing that I was going to bring up is that apparently the Saints have expressed some good interest in Kyle Trask, the Florida quarterback, should he be available in a later rounds. And actually, from a fit standpoint, I think Kyle Trask fits in very well to a Saints type offense. Makes very smart decisions, doesn't throw a lot of picks. Again, very smart. I think his timing with Michael Thomas would be great. I think he would bring the I don't want to say safety or security, but something that Jameis Winston doesn't quite bring that to you. You know, the confidence that he's going to control the ball the way you want it to be controlled and keep it within the offensive hands. Anyway, yada, yada. That's obviously a Florida tidbit, and I was happy to share that.
No risk it, no biscuit, baby.
No biscuit. We did move on a little bit quick. I forgot after the March Madness, we were supposed to segue into another bracket that we wanted to talk about. How would we not stay on topic whatsoever and on track, Pep? Because
an hour's just not long enough. We got to talk to Big Boss Man and see what we can do.
He's listening. He's like, you guys go as long as you want. I'm sure he said that. It's about the people listening and whether they want to keep listening.
It goes fast. Wow.
Let's put up that bracket because you know what? I think Sig will be interested in this. Sig, have you had a look at this?
Briefly, yeah. Wow.
So for those who are audio only, we have put up a image on the screen. It's a bracket called the Goat of Goats bracket, which basically takes arguably the greatest of all time in their individual sports and pins them up against each other to try and figure out who is the greatest of all time. Not too many greats.
The greater the greats.
The greater.
What we're going to do over the next 8 shows is basically we're going to whittle down this until we have the Unsportsmanlike Convo's Goat of Goats. And I feel like there should have been an air horn there. I didn't do it. I apologize.
Or a goat. Or it's goat sound.
All right. Note to self, goat.
Goat sound bite. Okay.
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
So today we're going to start with just one quadrant of this bracket, and that pins the Wayne Gretzky versus Mia Hamm, the USA soccer player, female soccer player. And then we also have LeBron James versus Babe Ruth.
That's pretty incredible, actually, that bottom bracket. It's pretty wild. This isn't a telestrator, though, right? We don't have a pen to write stuff on. This is just a screenshot.
Okay, now you're getting a little bit out of the technology here.
Sorry.
We don't have
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But for those who, again, you can go back and watch this on Facebook and stuff and get the actual graphic. But we're just going to start with those two right now. Wayne
Let's keep that up. Let's keep that up on the screen there, Brock, for a sec. Keep that up on the screen.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Sig, let's start with Sig. Sig, who are you picking between LeBron James and Babe Ruth?
Wow. That's tough. I mean, you
like
got legacy. What's that?
I feel like the other one was easier. Why don't we start with Wayne Gretzky and Mia Hamm?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I feel like yes, I agree that it's easier. I mean, it's Wayne Gretzky. It's the great one. How do you compete with that? I mean, Mia Hamm, she was the best soccer player on the planet in women's soccer, and as amazing as her accomplishments have been, it's still Wayne Gretzky. Like, it just doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
you can't compete with that.
I'm on the Wayne Gretzky train. I mean, I think the guy had 4 seasons of 200 points consecutive when he in his first 4 or 5 years in the league, and that might be a record. His points, all-time points record, that might never be touched.
I don't think anyone's going to beat that.
I don't think anyone will ever touch it. So I'm on Gretzky, Brock.
Yeah, it's Gretzky for me.
Okay.
Gretzky hands down.
Okay, let's get to the hard stuff. Let's get to the nitty-gritty then. Babe Ruth or LeBron James, Sig?
You got one legacy. I was going to say you got one legacy that's still going, and then you got Babe Ruth. I don't think. Am I cheating by looking at the other brackets? I'm like, I can't take LeBron out right now. You can't take LeBron out right now.
Are you peeking underneath?
You know what I mean? But
right? You can't see it on the screen. You're looking right underneath it.
At least I didn't say any names. I didn't say any names.
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm looking, but no, I'm gonna go with LeBron James because he's done some pretty amazing things with regards to numbers. He's still chasing the championships, and yeah, it's LeBron James.
I mean, it's LeBron James. I mean, no offense to Babe Ruth, but I wasn't alive in 1912. I didn't see him play. I don't know. Babe Ruth was a legend off the field. That's for sure. All-star World Hall of Fame drinker. But when it comes to, and it's not even finished. LeBron James is Gretzky and the Babe for me. That's incredible, Mike. That's incredible. No, I'm not going to go Babe Ruth because I just didn't know. I respect the stats. I respect history, but Babe over Ruth. You know what?
Wow, we're going to get roasted in here.
Honest to God, there are a lot of people that are going to vote for the Babe. And kudos. I mean, I have nothing against the Babe.
Before my time, and I can't. I've seen the things that he's done. I've read about it
in black and white.
Yeah.
But hey,
you're going with the Babe.
B. You going Babe, Brock?
No, God, no.
Oh, okay.
No,
but LeBron's still going. LeBron,
yes,
considering LeBron.
You have seen
LeBron
James play. You have seen and watched and felt and whatever. Babe Ruth is like Paul Bunyan reading books, saying like, maybe this is what he was like. He's larger than life. I have no clue because I wasn't around for that. So I don't know what's real and what's
LeBron
James
James
from
jumped over
generation
a
to
man.
generation.
He jumped over a man and dunked. He jumped
Right?
over a guy.
So
that's unbelievable.
you know,
Okay.
I've seen this with my own eyes. So for that
Yeah.
purpose only, I can't move Babe Ruth on and then argue Babe Ruth again and again and
Fair.
again. He's
Fair.
It just sucks that you have to take one out. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
and
Like,
this
I'm
is
sorry
probably
that
the easiest quadrant that I picked because I'm like, you know what? We're just starting this tonight. We'll take the easiest quadrant because the other ones are, I find, even
you
more.
took it off, so I'm not cheating. You took it off, so I'm not looking.
Bambino called his own shot, though. I mean, you'll never see that. I mean, that's incredible. And there's,
that he was pointing at somebody else.
Correct.
Whatever. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Greg.
No, it's true.
There
Thank
is there's things where you're not anyway.
Yeah.
It's all story. It's all legendary. Paul Bunyan did a bunch of stuff too. I don't know. Like I don't know why I named Paul Bunyan. I'm thinking somebody larger than life. Paul Bunyan's big, and I think of the red black. So I'm looking at thinking that's
Okay.
anyway. Who knows? It's
Wow.
legendary at that point. That's our
Okay,
first quadrant. We will come back next week, and we're going to hit another quadrant, and we're going to work our way down. But we got Gretzky and LBJ, and that's a three-way agreement here. Even though guys on the
unanimous
comments are all about Babe Ruth, I disagree, and therefore we move on.
Brock, are we going to have time for Jays, or should we just get into the hall or not at all?
I feel bad because Mike is so set up, and I had a walkout song for him and everything.
Oh man!
For the Jays, you know what? We're not going to dive into a lot. We'll just get his first opinion of the Jays opening weekend and their first 4 games. Just a real quick. We don't have to get too far into it because we're going.
Yeah, let's do that
later.
Let's do that.
Bring him in, and then we can ask him about that.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll bring Sig back. There's Mike.
What's up, Mikey?
Oh, it's so smooth.
Walkout song, just FYI. I gave him a choice, Sig. You did. I didn't.
Mike,
how we doing?
I'm good. You guys?
We're good. You froze there for a sec. Is there a delay?
There might be a bit of a delay.
Not bad. That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
The putting up the NFL video.
Oh, the double click.
Yeah, the double.
Who's playing Fortnite?
It didn't happen.
That's right. Obviously, you've watched the Jays this weekend. A very, very promising opening series. You got what we got. Everyone knows what they expect from Ryu, but TJ Zoik was excellent, and so was Steven Matz. I mean, Steven Matz had 9 strikeouts. What the hell happened to him with the Mets last year for him to go 0 and whatever and have an ERA of 10? He was awesome yesterday.
Yeah, it looked very good. You mentioned the strikeouts. It seems like he has a good year than a bad year. He kind of flip flops, and I know he had 2 brutal years 4 years ago, and then a good year in 2019, and then a bad year last year. It was just awful. Yeah, and that's what freed him up for that trade. So it's one of those things.
Might be a steal. That might end up being a steal.
Exactly, it might, and a low risk, high reward potential. You know,
he was throwing 100 miles an hour, and his changeup was 79. I mean, that is remarkable stuff. And he's throwing his changeup to lefties as well. So he was really, really hard on everybody yesterday, and he was fun to watch. TJ Zoik, did you watch his start against the Yankees in that rubber match?
Yep.
What'd you think of him?
I thought it was great.
All of you.
And he, again, his style of pitching with that sinker creates a lot of ground balls, and that got him out of a good amount of jams during that game too.
Absolutely.
Ground balls and double plays, he was able to facilitate that and force those batters into those type of plays. And I thought our pitching staff looked really good overall. Like over the last 4 games, everybody that comes in, they bring something. There was nobody where I felt, oh, this guy's going to be a problem throughout the year. Again, it's early.
There's a game tonight, but
well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Actually, they first pitch is probably in a minute or two here, but I'm looking forward to seeing Tanner Roark. I mean, right now he was slated to be the 3rd or 4th starter. Now he's like, look, I better start pitching well because they got Zoik and Matz, and Ross Stripling pitched well. He had 1 bad inning, but he pitched pretty well against the Yankees. So now there's, we got Thomas Hatch. They stretched him out over the spring session. So they want him to maybe start or at least fight for a starting position. They got Pearson and Ray. Robbie Ray is going to come in and he's going to solidify the. I mean, that's a good staff.
It is.
It's all right.
A lot of depth too, like you said, and you think of a guy like Thornton as well that can spot start if need be. So they're well set up for if and when there's injuries and prolonged injuries.
I will say this about the Blue Jays in their first 4 games is that I don't think I've ever seen a staff in Toronto throw this hard. I mean, we talked about, in the last few years, they had the Brett Cecils and the Dustin McGowans and the Mark Zipchinskis and these guys who throw like just upper 90s, but not much harder than that. And the book on the Jays was always that they don't have any fireballers. And they went out and got Grilly and LaTroy Hawkins, but even those guys weren't throwing over 95. No. So, their starters, Stroman's not a fireballer. Sanchez was, and then every time he touched something, he'd get a blister. It's nice to see their staff, their starters throw 100. I mean, they touched up 100. Matt's threw a 100-mile-an-hour pitch yesterday as a starter.
Multiple times.
I was just going to say the most impressive player for me over the weekend, and I know he only threw like 15 pitches, was Julian Merriweather, the throw-in, or the one player that they got back from the Josh Donaldson trade, who was really I think he was the player to be named later.
I don't know. He's always been highly touted, but he's had injury after injury, including last year. Like last year, he pitched in relief for the Jays at the MLB level, and even then he was doing well and got hurt again. So this year it looks hopefully like he's sort of put it all together and the injuries are behind him, and hopefully it's just progress from here. I mean, I think he set the bar pretty high with his first 2 appearances. I think he struck out 5 in those 2 innings. So that's not going to last, but if it's anywhere close to, he's working ahead. Before you know it, it's 0-2 on these batters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what you want. Someone coming out of the pen is just to attack. And I know everyone talks about Romano being the likely closer, and he still might be. It's so early in the year, but it's nice to have that 1A, 1A situation where you can go to either one of these guys late, high leverage, and they'll get the job done.
Nice to have that guy in the 8th and then a guy in the 9th. And we've faced multiple teams that had those kind of setups, and it was effective.
I pulled these 2 guys out just for this particular. I don't know if you can see.
I see Dwayne Ward.
Would you laminate them? They're super glary.
That's Mike Timlin and Dwayne Ward.
It was Dwayne Ward. Nice.
And Tom Henke. We're all on the same team at one point. Julian Mayweather was untouchable his first 2 appearances. I mean, he was, again, another guy who threw 100, but he also had his off speed was like 80. I mean, that's just ridiculous stuff. So I was super impressed with him. Am I a little enthusiastic and maybe blowing this all out of proportion after 4.5 games? Yeah, maybe. But
I think we all are. But
pitching was ultimately what they were criticized for in the offseason, for not getting enough pitching, for not going out there and spending big bucks and getting Trevor Bauers and the Klubers and those guys. They look good.
We beat Kluber game 1. Trevor Bauer does look good. But here's why we're excited, because normally we're still like, they'll get together. They'll get it together. They'll whatever. It's a bit of a slow start. Let's see what happens. The pitching, we're not quite sure, whatever. The pitching has looked very strong. We've beat the favorite team to win this division by a lot of experts. 2 games to 1. So it's not like we're just beating the Orioles or whatever. Although the Orioles have played pretty well actually against Boston.
They're 3-1. Yeah.
So there's time will tell, but it's a great first start. It's a great first impression, and all the things that are normally things we worried about, and we're like, we still haven't got that. They've come and produced. And you talk about the depth. I really like what Charlie's doing and getting guys into games early. So it's only been 4 games in, but he has had, 4 different starting lineups, I guess.
Yeah.
And has rotated guys through. One guy I got to say I'm impressed with is Grichuk. He's a guy who I think has started off the season on fire. And at one point, I was criticizing the whole time, saying, get rid of him. See if we can trade his salary, whatever. He's playing very well. Is he playing himself to a high-value trade chip, or is he playing himself right now into a spot where you're like, we can't get rid of him right now? What do you think?
If you hit, you'll play. They'll find a spot for you, and they'll, with the way that everything's working out with the DH and Tellez maybe not hitting so well, they can flip flop Hernandez, and I think if you can hit, you'll play on this team, and that's what Charlie's saying. And tonight, Alejandro Kirk's in the lineup. Like you said, he keeps changing it up, mixing up, getting guys in. Jonathan Davis had a taste yesterday. When Springer comes back, we don't know what's going to happen with Davis, but they'll find room for all these guys. And right now with Springer out, there's no question really. It's Grichuk, Hernandez, and Gurriel in the field with Davis as your.
The other exciting part is that
pretty
one
good.
of the best acquisitions we got,
the best,
in a long while, in Springer hasn't even played yet.
Yeah,
like, we're doing this right now. This lineup looks phenomenal,
and
we don't even have arguably one of our best players in that lineup.
Where do you think Springer lines up? Will he lead off, Mike, and they'll move Simeon down the lineup, or what? Do you think they keep Simeon up there and maybe move Cavan?
No. Well, the number 2 spot is up for grabs. I thought initially Biggio didn't look great or comfortable there, and I know he's got this legacy for not hitting into double plays, but I think he's hit into a couple already. So that is up for grabs, and I think Semyon, just by virtue of his start, he'll stay there. But that'll be a position I think you'll see guys switch in and out of. But Springer, to me, is definitely your number one, your leadoff guy. They said they gave him the lineup card in the spring and said, write out your lineup for today, and they gave it to him repeatedly, and each time he was batting leadoff. So
that's amazing.
I have no issue with a guy being acquired as a leadoff, being brought in as a leadoff. That's what he's used to. That's what he wants. That's why you pay him the big bucks. And if it's what he wants and that's what he's there for, then let him do it.
And if he's the way he's hitting, you let him do it.
Right.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like, again, he's going to bring even more balance to an already potent lineup. So it's just, that's not going to be fun for the AL East. I'll tell you that right now. The one other thing that was, an issue last year in particular, was their defense, and it was atrocious. Let's not sugarcoat it. It was awful.
Yeah,
awful everywhere. Third, first, Hernandez. They look much improved. It's early, but they look much improved. They looked a little more focused, like in the eyes, if that makes any sense. Like they just look like they're locked in. Biggio looks good at third. Good glove, but his arm looks a little weak to make some of those throws when he's fading off third base. He made a couple of throws to Vladdy back to back where they were bouncers. One where I think rolled to him. So that might be a concern. That might be something they trade for maybe down the road. We'll see what happens there. Maybe they give Vladdy a couple of reps. They've told Vladdy you're playing first. So he's and leads to my next question. How do you think he's played at first so far these first 4 games?
He's played well. He's like, I know everyone's seen the picks he's made. And they're huge because that goes from you're losing an out and you've got a guy on base now. So it's a double whammy when an error like that happens. So he's picked up Bichette. I think has made a few. I know Biggio
early on. They were talking about Bichette's throws. They were talking about us not bringing his feet with him, and there was multiple throws in at least game 1 and maybe a bit of game 2, or at least game 1. And Vladdy impressed me with those scoops, like very, very good hands at first.
Yeah, he's bailed them out. But the one thing he can't do is come off the bag. And he's done that twice already in 4 games, which I know you're trying to get out there. But if you're coming off the bag, it's meaningless how far you stretch because you're not going to get that out no matter what. So
that's
it's
something he's going to learn though. Like the fact that he's almost in full splits when he's doing that. So it's a matter of controlling his body where he goes down to a split without throwing himself a bit more towards the ball and keeping that contact with the bag. I think he works through that fairly well.
Yeah.
Over the next little while. It's not errors you're going to see year long that he comes off the bag.
No, I agree. And I think it's something, like it's learning that footwork. But I think he looks good. I agree with you, Pep, that Biggio at third, I love him defensively. He'll pick up grounders. He'll make the hard to get plays. It's the arm that concerns me.
Yeah.
If it's a late inning game, and you got a speedster at the plate, I drop a bunt and I think you can beat him out, 6 times out of 7.
I'm
They
wondering.
had a play very similar to that in one of those games. It was a slow roller to third, and he wasn't able to get the ball over.
I'm wondering if it's playing second for so long. You get used to the depth. I don't think it's anything to do with arm strength. I bet you told him, "Hey, throw it from there to there," and he can do it. I think it's just more getting used to the distance. It's a long throw. I mean, it's a lot longer than it is from second to first. I think it's just getting used to the depth and knowing how much juice you got to kind of put on a ball, like a quarterback, really. Like, you sort of get used to the depth perception, and maybe it'll just take some time, and we'll see. I don't think he lacks arm strength personally.
He also understands that he's kind of the odd man out right now in terms of that middle infield, right? We have 2 guys they're there. That's what's going to be. Siemens at second, Bichette's at short. So if you want to be playing on a consistent basis,
you better like it.
Figure this. Yeah, exactly. You're going to like this one. Either that or they're going to put you in the field. But our outfielders are all better than what he would be out there anyway. So third is kind of like where you need to step up. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, you're probably right. It's your gauge, your timing mechanism, everything that was done at second needs to be faster, harder, all that kind of stuff from third. And I think that's what he's going to get working on. But I don't ever question his work ethic in terms of getting up to speed. So I think that's something that is going to come. I know you've talked about Vladdy going to third. Vladdy looks much better and more athletic after he shed the weight. You try him at third. That's Mike. Vladdy looks really good.
He's going to get,
but also tells me that he's got to be strict probably for the rest of his career because he's likely a slip up at Krispy Kreme to being a defensive tackle again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he has the body type where he's got to continue to work at it nonstop during his career in order to maintain that.
Oh, he'll get reps at third. For sure. And it may not be like 2-3 games in a row, but he'll get reps at third. When BGO needs a break, he'll get reps for sure. And we'll see. What's that?
Yeah, I think when you want the Tellez in the lineup, again with injuries and stuff, you might want Tellez at first, and Vladdy fits in at third.
Tellez is the last guy I wanted to talk about before we move on and end the show with a few things. I mean, he's swinging under, he's getting under the ball. That might suggest that he's just a shade late. I'm rooting for the guy. His story's cool. I'm rooting for Rowdy Tellez. He's a good guy. He's got a ton of power. But 0 for 8, 0 for 12, 1 for 16. Like, he's got to show something. He's got to be able to keep up with these guys now. Like, these aren't. This isn't Brandon, whatever they had playing third last year and whatever. These are. He's got a team ahead of him now. He's got to hit.
Yeah, and produce runs is the big thing.
That's his job.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because sometimes when you add new players, there's that odd man out syndrome that. And I thought Grichuk would have that. I thought he'd be like, well, they went and acquired all these guys, and I'm the odd man out, but he's come off and started the season, by virtue of injury, but he's been put in there and he's hitting. I think he's leading the team in average. With Tellez, he looks like a guy who is like late July, early August slump, like where everything is going poorly, and I'm just wondering what's.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do. I did it so that you were making a point. I was bringing in.
Yeah. And then in the spot, we call that in the spotlight.
Yeah, the producer in you. Something's wrong. No, but so with Tellez, he does look like he's fighting it a bit, and I know it's 4 games, but he took a third strike the other day, and it's almost like he just wants any way to get on base, and he kind of, I think he's fighting it so much that I'll try it for a walk. He is third in the AL in hit by pitch though, so he's up there for that stat. But I mean, he will come around. Again, Montoya's done a good job of sort of mixing it up and getting everybody in. I think he'll continue to do that, and in a low leverage, lower in the order spot, 7th or down there, and get him going, and then move him up.
Well, let's see. I mean, he's got to do it. And the best thing that happened to Grichuk is the Springer injury. It forced him to get in there and say, I can hang with these guys. I mean, You know, he was 30 homers a couple of years ago. So I think it's a good thing. And when Springer comes back, you know, Gritchick, they'll get him in the lineup. I mean, the guy can hit, and he's a professional hitter, and we'll go from there. But man, I'm so pumped that.
And the door was open for Gritchick, and he's taken advantage of it. So
far,
I always go like I love hearing stories like that. The guys it's a fluke opportunity where really you were the odd man out, and likely not in a good scenario moving forward if Springer was starting from day one. And he had his opportunity, he seized it, and you know he's been doing well.
Perfect segue, Brock. Really, let's end this with speaking of odd men out, the snitch is our UC blooper of the week. Do we have that? I knew
you were going to go to the blooper, and I think I forgot to upload it.
That's okay. That's all right. You know what it is, guys? It was the Jose Canseco playing right field for the Texas Rangers back in the early 90s, and a guy hit a homer. Oh, he hit a deep fly ball, and Jose went to play it, and it went off his head and over the fence. And as you know, in baseball, that's a home run. So we had that lined up as our UC blooper. But hey, we had a lot on our plate, and we got like 87% of it. It's pretty good.
It's not bad. Let's finish. We're going to finish because
do it.
Still with us, and he's smiling so patiently.
He's probably like, how do these idiots like baseball so much?
You guys I still get into it. I still get into baseball. I was a 90s baby.
All right, our top 5. Mike, do you have top 5? Were you prepared for this?
No.
All right, so we're going to pull you out then.
All right, sure. We'll bring you right back though, because we got something right after. I know we're running close for tight for time. Brock, let's go. Your top 5. These are the top 5 quarterback busts, but not necessarily picked first overall. Just maybe first round, maybe whatever. But they're considered busts, quarterback busts in the NFL.
All right. Okay, I'll start. I got 4 honorable mentions.
Okay.
Achilles Smith.
Tear my Achilles Smith. Tim
I like
Couch.
how we laugh when we hear the name.
J.P. Lossman.
Wow. Oh.
And Mitch Trubinsky is an honorable mention.
Ooh.
Honorable mention, not top 5.
You trying to start a fight with your brother or what?
Okay.
J.P. Lossman and Mitch Trubisky. Okay.
Hey, you can't sit there and argue from a Bills fan standpoint and tell me J.P. Lossman was anything but a bust.
Rodrigo. Okay.
All right. Number 5, I got Andre Ware out of Houston with the Detroit Lions.
Did he play in the CFL for a year or two? With the BC Lions?
I don't think it wasn't Andre Ware. Like a Spencer Ware, maybe. I think there was a different Ware.
I'm not sure.
Number 4, the cover of one of the NCAA video games at the time. Another Oregon bust, Joey Harrington.
Lions
poor guy. He had a couple.
He was on the cover there.
He was on the cover. Yeah, Oregon has produced some pretty decent busts. One guy panned out in the CFL, I guess. But number 3. Jamarcus Russell out of LSU.
Okay, he's your number 3
with the Raiders. He's my number 3.
Okay.
Number 2, I have Ryan Leaf out of Washington State.
Okay. Okay.
And my number 1 quarterback bust, Vince Young out of Texas with the Titans.
Arguably the greatest NCAA quarterback, and just
not horrible. Like wasn't the bust to the Ryan Leaf effect bust, but he was a bust where I felt he went to the Titans out of all these teams: Titans, Chargers, Raiders, Lions, Bengals, Browns, Bills, Bears. Like the Titans had a team that was already not horrible when he got there. Mm-hmm. So he had a bit more opportunities, I felt, from a team perspective. Tim Couch going to the Browns. It could have been anybody. It could have been Tom Brady.
They were an expansion team.
But Vince Young, again, arguably the greatest quarterback in college football, one of them, other than Tim Tebow, I guess. One of the greatest games I've ever seen in that 2005 Rose Bowl.
Yes.
He just had all the attributes that should have been transferable to the NFL at a very high level, and I felt he did not live up to that. So he's my number 1 bust.
Okay. All right,
Sig.
So my top 5 list, I threw a running back in at number 5 just because I'm a running back, and I knew that there'd be so many quarterbacks that were going to be overlapped, and so I threw a running back in for my number 5, and I'm going.
I think I know who it is, but okay.
Trent Richardson.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he was drafted 3rd by the Browns.
How the hell does this happen? You're a guest, and you not only went the top 5, you went like completely different. You know what? My top baseball player, I'm going to start with number 5, was Babe Ruth. And I'm going to go with my quarterback. He's making up his own rules.
All right.
He was bad. He was at 5. Tim Couch, he was my number 4. Just horrible. Achilles Smith was my number 3.
Yeah.
Ryan Leaf was my number 2. I just remember him yelling at that one reporter and then going to jail later, a few years later. I'm like, yeah, just bad for you guys.
Tough life.
And 100%. And my number 1 was Jamarcus Russell. Mainly because 1, he was a bust. But 2, the fact that his coaches gave him tapes that were apparently, this is a story that were apparently blank. Didn't tell him. Asked him what he thought about the coverages on the tape.
These are the plays. This is what we're trying to install this week. Take a look at it. Let us know what you think. And the next day they went and said, "What'd you think?" They says, "I love them all. Let's put them all in." And they're like, "You care about that?" And they're like, "Yeah." They're like, "There's nothing on those DVDs."
So
the CD was blank.
This guy did no work.
No, hot mess.
Yeah.
But at the same rate, the guy made $50-some million because it was pre the rookie salary caps.
We didn't say not successful.
I know.
We said
was he the quarterback that made that pass in Denver when with Jerry Porter at the back of the end zone jumped really high to get it with one hand? Was he? It was Jamarcus Russell was the quarterback. He had like a glimpse of something 1 year with the Raiders. They finished 6-10, but you could tell they were kind of excited. Okay, maybe we got something here, and then was that him? We got to look that up.
I don't think so. I'm just getting the private chat saying that Andre Ware played for Ottawa, BC, and Toronto.
Boom. So. I remember the dumbest stuff in this one. Okay, here's my top 5. Honorable mention, I have Tim Couch, only because that was an expansion team. I mean, that was the Cleveland's return to the NFL after they packed up their stuff and left for Baltimore overnight. Thank you, Art Modell. All right. Here are my busts, and a lot of the similar guys. Number 5, I have Achilles Smith. Tough situation. They weren't very good in Cincinnati. Number 4, I have Matt Leinart. Just Arizona expected a lot more from him. They actually chose him over Kurt Warner, if I'm not mistaken. That didn't go well. So Matt Leinart, I have at number 4. Number 3, Johnny Manziel.
Ooh, that's
Johnny Manziel.
That's a great one.
Hey, listen, he stunk, and the Browns picked him nice and high. So cash money Manziel, baby. Yeah, you got that right, Ferreira.
That's a great.
Number 2, I have Jamarcus Russell, because there was a glimpse of something that 1 year, and I think that was him that made that Jerry Porter catch. And number 1 it's got to be Ryan Leaf, and Ryan Leaf has had a tough post-career, in and out of prison, some issues with drugs and gambling. I think if I'm not mistaken. I just recently saw an interview with him, and he looks like he's a lot better. He shed a ton of weight, so he looks a little healthier. But I just think, what are you going to do? You blew your chance, and I think, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. But he's my number 1. So there you have it.
Can't really go wrong. There has been a lot of quarterback busts. If you were to pick one right now, say, you know what, we're 10 years down the road and we're looking back at the 2021 draft. A lot of quarterbacks in there. Bust. Who's the bust of the bunch?
Oh, man.
Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones.
I mean, I hate to say, Jesus, I like Justin Fields, but I don't. He had a good running game behind him. That's a tough one. These guys are so well coached now that they're less likely to be a bust than they were 15 or 20 years ago. So these guys are playing like pro sets. They're doing things in the college that we've never seen in the history of the NFL and college football ranks. So it's hard. Even a bust now is pretty good. If that makes any sense.
No, it doesn't. But there was actually one analyst was talking about the quarterbacks the coaching at the quarterback level in the NFL is subpar, and they don't get good coaching in the NFL. So it's kind of like whatever you got during college, better transfer to the NFL game because the coaching doesn't quite live up to that. So from that standpoint, if I'm going straight off of that, I'm thinking, I don't know. It's going to be, I think Mac Jones is going to be fine. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine. I think it's going to fall into like the
Trey Lance
Fields, Trey Lance
or
like that kind of one. I think
yeah.
Wilson may still end up being bust because he's going to New York. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of getting drafted as a bust. New York, they don't do anything to support you anyway. So, but I think it's going to be something we talk about in the future.
Okay, so we're gonna do the hall, in the hall or take a hike. Well, I can't remember what I called it. We'll do that next week. I'll keep this list handy here.
Yeah, in the hall or not at all, I think is what you had.
Yes.
I think you just come up with something that like, and then you're like, oh, and you make a game of it. Anyway, pretty much. So in the hall or not at all will be next week. We'll also continue to goats talk next week as well. And for that, we wrap up the show. Sig, we want to appreciate you for being on again.
Lakers Raptors tonight, baby. Lakers Raptors tonight.
Oh, that's a good one. That'll be good. Again, those checking into Facebook Live, make sure you like it, watch it, accept the StreamYard comments, stuff so we can see your face when you're making your comments. Take a look at the podcast like that. Big Boss Man's going to move us back up to the page 1 so nobody has to worry about where we're at. And we're working on a better gear merch page that will have specific examples that you guys can then choose from. So we're working on that. Stay safe. Stay home if you need to. Stay healthy. Let's get through this kind of stuff. And we're going out to I was listening to Cap City Beats not that long ago, and it was a big throwback jam night, and it was Craig David was on, and I was like, I totally forgot about this guy. I loved one of his albums. And it was called Time to Party. We're going out to that.
There we go.
But don't party. We're in a pandemic.
Yeah, no.
As long as the music's on, you can party at home. Have a good night, everybody.
Peace out, homies.
Good night.
Ready to do the things we love. We're gonna get a groove on all night long. Oh, hey! Give it up now for the DJ. Yeah. And put your hands on my eyes and say, it may be raining, but who cares about the weather? Cause when the heat is on, we'll all be getting wetter. It's the start of the weekend. Don't waste no time, for tonight is your night. Time to party. Let me see you spin and sway. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? On Friday. Time to party. Let me see you spin and sway. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? Everybody's feeling right. Cause you know it's party night. Ooh, yeah. All the ladies are looking tight. Whether silk or satin, lace or leather. Ooh, what a sight. Here's where the party starts. Things can only get better. Just make your way onto the dance floor. Get together. It's the start of the weekend. Don't waste no time, for tonight is your night. Time to party. Let me see you spin and sway. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? On Friday. Time to party. Let me see you spin and sway. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? This party be going on till the break of dawn. Let's give it up. What? Let's get it on. Break open a bottle of Moe and Shadona when it's gone. We're still on the dawn, carry on. This vibe's making me high, like Tony. Surrounded by other people moving their body. You think you get mad, flavor in your head. Big shout to the people around the side, in the front, at the rear. This is gonna be one hell of a year. And there's no way that I'm letting anyone interfere. This is how we do, getting it on in the venue. Can you hear my microphone? 1, 2. Can you give it up now, please? for the DJ, giving you a party like a summer saute. Okay, let's leave those hands in the air and wave them around like you just don't care. Come on, all Friday, time to party. Never say swing and swing. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? All Friday, time to party. Never say swing and swing. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? All Friday, time to party. Never say swing and swing. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? All Friday, time to party. Never say swing and swing. Just tell me, are you with me? Are you with me? All Friday.